Good morning, everyone. This is Archbishop Richard Gagnon here, and this is our Friday morning report. Thank you very much for joining us today. It's June the 14th, and we're well into the center of June now. And so God bless you for joining us, and welcome all those, especially those outside the province of Manitoba who are tuning in as well to our Friday morning report. You know, I've often said that it's important for us Catholics to understand our history, where we come from, and how history has evolved with regards to the Christian faith in different countries throughout the world. That's very important to understand our history, to know where we come from. And also too, I think it's important for Catholics to realize how their faith has manifested in all kinds of different ministries in different ways. And the Archdiocese has many different kinds of ministries and good works that are being done. So today I'm most pleased to welcome Rosalinda, who is the new director of the House of Peace in Winnipeg. And I know that many people in the city of Winnipeg are familiar with the House of Peace on Edmonton Street in Winnipeg, but many people in the Archdiocese, especially in the rural areas, etc., or even in the city, are not familiar with the unique work, the unique ministry, the unique development of House of Peace as a service to women in need in the city of Winnipeg. So Rosalinda, you've been very gracious to spend time. You gave me a little tour today, and we're sitting now in the living room here of House of Peace. And I wonder if we can start simply by saying, can you sort of share with us a little bit about the way that the House of Peace developed since, I think it was 2004, as a presence in Winnipeg. Just give a sort of capsulized view of that.
Sure,
so we kind of
I'd love to
understand that a little bit.
And thank you so much for taking the time to be with us here in our home.
Well, my pleasure.
So I'll start with that. So the House of Peace started in about 2002, 2004, like you said. And it was originally, the building belonged to the Franciscans. It was a friary. And so they had 2 floors here on Edmonton. A large part of the building was the chapel. But it was sort of fizzling out, I'll say, in gentle terms. And so they were moving their way. They were going to join their community in Ontario. So the building was becoming available. And so the call went out to the communities, who wants this building? Who could do something with it? And the call went to the SNJM community, the community that Sister Leslie Saccoman is part of. And she had just started and really established Rossbrook by that time. It was a good 10 years in, and it was well established and running from its genesis in her and Sister Jerry McNamara's home on Ross Street. It had now become a full functioning, important institution in our city. And she felt a real calling at that time. You know what, it's good, it's a well-oiled machine. I feel a calling to help in a different way, to live in community with women, with immigrants. So she didn't have a plan per se, but she had a vision, and she really felt that calling. And in perfect Sister Leslie fashion, she said, I'll take it, and I know that it will come to fruition the way it's meant to. And so they found someone to buy the building, and he bought it for them and said, listen, we'll give you the first 3 months rent-free, but after that, it's $78,000 a year, which for downtown Winnipeg is a deal.
Right.
But if you don't have a dollar, it may as well be $1 million a year.
Yeah.
And she didn't have that money. She didn't have a plan. But of course, it worked. I mean, we're celebrating this year 20 years of this vision of the House of Peace that Sister Leslie had, and that leap of faith that she took. And so the House of Peace is a home, really a refuge in our downtown community. And it's a place where we accept with open arms young immigrant refugee women who, by the grace of God, have escaped the horrors of war and ended up on our front doorsteps. And that happens through various means. The other day, a teacher brought her young student here. We've had doctors bring their patients. We've had employers bring their employees. We get calls from the Salvation Army, from New Journey Housing. So they come to us by a variety of means, word of mouth. But we accept them here, and we love them back to life, and we have them stay with us for up to 2 years, where they are able to really start that healing process and grow and gain confidence. And we help them in areas, that daunting world of government, with their settlement papers and permanent residency and citizenship and all of that stuff. Help them with education, help them with employment. And that's that.
I over the years, I've met some of the women who have been residents here and who have gone forward in life. And they're remarkable people from all over the world, different backgrounds. This is quite a story. And I know that the House of Peace has a lot of support now, among people in general in this community of Winnipeg area and beyond, because they see what you just talked about as very, very important. So Rosalinda, I wonder if you can share with us a little bit about maybe one of the most challenging aspects in organizing this House of Peace, in getting it going, and also with regards to that which is most fulfilling in your experience. Because I know before you came into your position now as head of this wonderful place, you were a volunteer here for many years prior, so you understand the workings very well. And so what do you see as one of the more challenging aspects of having House of Peace, its presence and its ministry to immigrant and refugee women?
So, running a nonprofit, the biggest challenge is always money. That's just what it comes down to, getting that support. For some reason, we are unable to get government support.
You're completely financed by people's donations.
By people's private donations, by that, door-to-door knocking, by that sort of handful of very, very good friends to our home. So, just that would be sort of the blanket answer. But more importantly, whether it's, immigrant or refugee women or just women generally, historically in the world, unfortunately, are disproportionately dispensable. Women are not valued. Women are even in our own first world city, we're not raking the red for men. We don't have license plates on our cars for missing and murdered men. We don't have millions of shelters across our planet for battered men. Not to say that doesn't happen, but women are disproportionately victims of that type of mentality, of that type of treatment, by virtue of the packaging we're born into. And then put us in a country where we are run by a bastardized religion or political system, and now they really have no fighting chance. The women at the House of Peace have survived the horrors of war. They have survived being sexually exploited, used as weapons of war, and in a way of trying to intimidate their family and the community. They have been sold from terrorist group to terrorist group as sex slaves. So you add that, now bring in some racist bias. Now they're black women, and so it's just so layered, and it's so hard to get behind a cause for women, I think, is really the truth of it. It's easy to get behind even animal shelters but getting money to support women is not necessarily a priority in our society.
And House of Peace has managed to touch the hearts of many people in our community
Somehow
to
we
respond
have.
directly to that. And what would you say about the most fulfilling, from your perspective, from your experience in this place? What do you see that's really been life-giving? Because Rosalinda, you are a person that you really have a lot of joy, the way you express yourself. And I just say that very clearly. So you're in a niche here, in this work, in this ministry,
Thank
which
you.
is registering very deeply with you. What gives you a sense of fulfillment?
So the fulfillment is seeing some of the neighbors and how their life could have been so different had they not stepped into the House of Peace. We have a neighbor, we call the women who live with us, we call them neighbors.
Neighbors, yeah.
We have a neighbor right now who has just, I can't begin to explain the horrific life she had and, you know, coming here. She has just written her medical equivalency exam, and this woman is going to be a doctor in our community. I know she will pass those exams, and she is going to be just such a gift with that lived experience. We have another neighbor who today at 4 o'clock is going to see her mom for the first time in 17 years. She's coming into the airport. I mean, that is life-giving to me. And I just feel like it's just such a privilege that I am this tiny part of their story.
Right.
Like they are life-giving to me. And so that's what's fulfilling.
Yeah. Yes, that's wonderful. Thank you. I'm going to stray from any questions I had in my
that's
mind.
fine.
And when you walk into the House of Peace, if you go into the area that we're sitting in now, which is the residence of the women here and everything else, one of the things that strikes people, it struck me the first time I came here with Sister Leslie, and this goes back to her approach to things, you know, because she gave birth to House of Peace with God's help and many collaborators, obviously. The word that comes to mind is beauty, Rosalinda. We're sitting in a very beautiful living room, right? And you show me the dining room. And all things are all donated, right? And upstairs in the residence area, it's very beautiful. It's clean, it's organized, it's structured, it's a lovely environment. And when I think about the background of these women came from, that I kept thinking myself of Pope Benedict XVI, beauty saves, beauty heals.
Yes.
And that's part of this as well, so that the women who have been from very difficult backgrounds are surrounded in not only in a loving community here that helps them go forward, but they're in an environment which is beautiful, which is something I think all of us should think about in our own lives as well.
For sure.
You want to respond to that?
Yeah,
That's a completely spontaneous question.
No, I love it. And Sister Leslie would be very happy that you tuned into that and that you remarked on beauty, because that's very, very important to her. She spoke about it recently at our last dinner, about the healing power of beauty.
Yeah.
And, you know, she's just such a wise, important, intuitive person. And, you know, she gets that. She understands that healing happens when you're surrounded by beauty.
Yeah.
Healing can't happen when you're still in chaos and squalor, in mess, with rats, with a cockroach infestation, you know. And it's, thank you for mentioning the building's beauty, the home's beauty. But I want to remark, and you've touched on it as well though, that everything is donated. And so it is a simple beauty. It is a humble beauty. It's not a beauty that we've spent all this money at, and, you know, I think that's what makes it even more beautiful. The humility, the simplicity, the loving, like this chair and your chair, somebody lovingly gave that to us.
It's a very comfortable chair.
They only give us the best. So, you know, I love that every hallway, every corner we turn, somebody's loving touch is in this home. And that also breathes beauty and love into this home. And the women feel it. And yes, people will come in here and say, oh, but it's so beautiful, and your dining room is nicer than my dining room. And our response is, as it should be, as it should be. These women have survived what we can never, ever imagine. I have 3 daughters. I mean, I can't imagine as a mother knowing that they've experienced a fraction of that fear and that pain and that exploitation. And if they come to us and arrive at our front doorsteps and we want to spoil them with a little hand-me-down beauty and love and cleanliness and order, then let us do that. Let us help them heal with what that beauty provides.
And it's really a package, isn't it?
It is,
The surroundings of beauty and order are very
For
helpful
sure.
in terms of human dignity. But I guess ultimately it's what happens within the community. It's the love, it's the listening, it's the sensitivity, giving of opportunities, helping people think of their future, and develop a more solid foundation to their lives. All of this happens within the context of
That's right.
this building and this facility. But with the House of Peace, this is a whole topic in itself with regards to what is being done with women here. But there's another aspect to this place as well, and that has to do with the outside community, right? Because you walk into the House of Peace, you become aware there's a chapel here, there's a reception area, and can you say a word about? And I've seen this with my own eyes. Can you say a little bit about how the House of Peace facility itself serves the general area here in Winnipeg for people who stop by? There's various things that are happening here. Can you say a word about that?
Oh, for sure. And thank you for highlighting that. Yes, like a large part of the House of Peace is serving the 20 women that live in this residence.
Right.
But it is very important. And we are seen in the downtown community as a source in our downtown of outreach.
Right.
And so, our doors are open. It is an intentional mandate for us that folks, that are experiencing homelessness, that are cold, they have a place to come and warm up. It is very important to Sister Leslie that people have a place to be able to wash and use the bathroom with dignity. Our chapels, it is astounding to me. My office is now, my now new office is outside of the chapel doors, and I am blown away every day by the constant, steady stream of people coming in business suits, in full construction gear, in medical scrubs, like all the surrounding community that just come, and there's just that moment of peace, of silence. Whether they're praying, some are on their phone, it doesn't matter. It's that sanctuary in the heart of the city. We also have a room downstairs. It's a large hall, and we have made that room available for the various social justice groups in the city, for the various support groups, Cocaine's Anonymous, End of the Line, Alcoholics Anonymous. We have various youth groups. We have the Deaf Society. That's important to us. This is a place for the community to heal, for the community to find refuge. And then, of course, specific to the woman.
Right. Yeah, and the things I've noticed, as you have described, the little chapel area, you got the main church chapel itself, they got these side chapels, little areas. The Blessed Sacrament is reserved off the side there, and people just come in and pray. They just come in and pray. That's very, very powerful because,
Every day.
the presence of the Blessed Sacrament in that way. Okay, a question comes to mind, I guess. Maybe it's easy to answer, maybe it's not easy to answer, I don't know. Two parts to it, Why, Rosalinda, did you become attracted to become, first of all, a volunteer here? That process in your life, right? Listening to God's voice in your heart there. And second of all, to motivate you to assume the leadership that when Sister Leslie retired from House of Peace, to take her role, in your own way, in your own talents. So those two things.
Okay.
Can you say a word about that for us?
So yes, sure. About 10 years ago, a friend of mine took me to the annual House of Peace dinners that we have at the Convention Center.
Which is only a step from here, and the
Right.
cathedral's just over there.
Right,
Okay.
yeah, it's wonderful. And that dinner, for anybody who's been to it, is really, I go to quite a few of these things, but that is the most impactful, moving dinner that I go to every year.
Okay.
And so I heard Sister Leslie speak for the first time, and it was like the angels, I just thought, who is this woman? I need to be near her. I need that energy. I need to, whatever she's doing, I want to be a part of it. And I just after she was done speaking, I found her in the audience. And I said, listen, I'm a teacher. I teach English as an additional language. I don't know how I can help you, but I need to be near you, and I need to be near these women. And I'll wash dishes, I'll do whatever you want, but I know I need to be a part of the House of Peace. And I started a week later. I started tutoring women. I started working with them, sort of an area that my area of expertise, so teaching English. So I worked with a lot of the women living here and girls that were in high school or doing a certain accreditation or doing exams, and helped them prepare for that. And then it evolved, like whatever the needs were, and then I became involved in events, and my family really became involved with the home. And I have a pool party for the neighbors every summer, and they come and we have a volleyball tournament in the pool, and we do a barbecue, and we spend our Christmases here together with the neighbors as a family. And so it's just a very important part of my personal life and my family life.
Okay.
When it comes to the decision or transitioning, I mean, it was very, very overwhelming. Sister Leslie and I have become very good friends over the past 10 years. She is somebody I deeply love and admire, and is, I don't like to use the word hero, but I'll call it, she is a personal hero. To me, she is an angel among us. And I just respect her so much. And we were out for dinner in November after the dinner, just to kind of catch up a little bit. And I don't know, I'm eating my wonton soup across the street, and she stops me mid-sentence and says, "Rosalinda, when I retire, would you consider taking over the House of Peace?" And I, just about choked. And because, she is so beloved by thousands, tens of thousands. And she knows so many people and could have asked anybody way more experienced than myself. But for that request to have come from her, for her to see something in me, I took that very seriously. And I was really hesitant, because I'd been teaching now 25 years.
Right.
22 of those years in Winnipeg School Division, just up the street on Portage Avenue.
Okay.
Working in the adult EAL department with all newcomer students coming in 18 and up. And I loved that job. Anyone who knows me loves that I loved teaching there. And I had just started tapering down to part-time. And my summer's off, and and I could do that job in my sleep, and I was well respected in my field, and I knew this was a big ask. And she asked me in November. That is the beginning of Advent, and that was a really sacred and divine thing for me, to be asked at a time that, Advent is very sacred to me personally.
Yeah.
But at a time when we prepare our hearts for the coming of Jesus, for the coming of something new and sacred. And I really prayed with that through November, preparing my own heart. God, if this is where you need me, put my plans aside. If this is where, and that's what I'll do. And I said yes. I said, I'll put my hat in the ring. We have a very good board. They were very diligent in the hiring process, put out a public call and all of that. But I said yes. And they awarded me and the job of executive director. And then I started during Lent. And so to have been, I don't want to say bookended, but to me it's really more, to have been cradled by Advent, preparing your heart for the coming of something sacred. And then with Lent, new beginning, new life. There is such providence and divinity in that. To me, it's undeniable. And so I know without a doubt I'm meant to be here, really. And so, that would be my answer.
That's really, that's very inspiring. When you speak of bookends, there's another bookend here too, in your story. The initial motivation and interest to be near Sister Leslie and near her work, and you assuming the leadership has been the culmination, that original impulse that you had
That's so
when you
true.
were coming here.
Yeah,
So
that's
there's
right.
many things going on. So before we finish today, with the Friday reports, here and there we've been touching upon Dignitas Infinita, the document on human dignity, that human beings have an infinite dignity in their lives, right? And you've already touched upon this somewhat in your description of the immigrant and refugee women, where they come from, what they've been through. So let's just focus just for a moment, a brief moment, on our own environment, our own city, our own society here, our own community. What do you see as some of the affronts against human dignity relative to women in our own milieu here in Manitoba, in Winnipeg, Manitoba?
I love that term of that infinite dignity, right? I mean, that's how God breathed us to life, right? With that infinite love, that infinite dignity, that infinite inherent self-worth. And I know you specify it to women, but men, women, we are not impervious to brokenness in that, to that separation from that. And so we kind of are, as children, we are raised with these mistaken beliefs, right? Because that infinite dignity is broken somewhere along the way. And I call it mistaken beliefs because that could never have been true. It could never have been true that we're not lovable, that we're not worthy, that we're not good enough, that we're not important. And so that repair, that connection to God, that receiving that infinite love, that infinite divinity, that infinite goodness, that's what helps us heal. And the more you believe that about yourself as a man, and you give that to yourself, and you have that compassion for yourself, the more you treat me with that dignity. And the more I believe that about myself and have that dignity and believe that inherent self-worth and goodness in myself, the more I treat you with that. It's like I see those leaves reflected in the background. And I often look at those leaves and I look at the intricate veining and how intentional every leaf is made with that veining, and they all have a job. And I think, my God, if that leaf is made with that much intention and purpose and worth, surely I was made with so much more than that. And it's that exercise of connecting back to love, connecting back to the Holy Spirit and God and goodness and love, and remembering that that's for me. And I'm connected to that leaf and that river and all of it, and to you. And that no one is better than the other, and we're all together, we're all one. And so, yeah, that inherent dignity, that infinite dignity, that's for us to have. That was our gift. But we've just moved away from that. And that's just life and people and broken leaders and, I don't know, society. But that's our journey, and that's what we try to do here, is lead people back to that truth, the truth of their soul, that we have that infinite dignity.
And thank you for that. Some wonderful thoughts to reflect on. And down the hall there was a picture of the Madonna and Child, and you mentioned to me that if the mothers are strong, if the mothers have a sense of real personal dignity, they pass that on to their children. That has a reflection throughout society as a whole. That's
exactly it. That would be the second sort of part to that question, is when you empower a woman, when you give a woman a pencil, when you give her the opportunity for education, when you give her financial independence where she doesn't need to be reliant on the government, on a man, when you give her that self-sufficiency, you change the trajectory of her life, and you change the trajectory of her children's lives and their children's lives. And those are the women that we put out into the world, and they leave this building with their head held a little higher than the way they walked in. And they are impactful, contributing, tax-paying, wonderful women, and such an asset and richness to Winnipeg when they leave this place.
Well, thank you. And now you have some idea about what the House of Peace is all about. And I'm very grateful, Rosalinda, for your time and for your tour And a little lunch is going to follow this.
Yes,
So
it is.
all kinds of good things happening.
Yes.
So thank you very much for joining us today on this Friday Report. And I'm sure some of the things that were mentioned today can serve as a personal inspiration in the way that we relate to others. And perhaps the whole notion of God's call in our heart. What is He calling us to do in terms of ministry, in terms of following her Son, following the Son of God, Jesus Christ, our Savior? So, once again, thank you.
Thank you.
And the Lord be with all of you, and may He bless you, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.